October 2023. In the rolling hills of South Africa's Eastern Cape, nestled in the small town of Matatiele, the story of an innocent girl named Cwecwe began, a story that would shake a nation to its core. Bergview College, a prestigious private institution where parents entrust their most precious gifts, their children. But behind these walls, a 7-year-old girl named Cwecwe would experience something no child should ever endure.
Our National Police Commissioner Fani Masemula says they have identified 3 people of interest in the Cwecwe rape case. But this does not make them suspects. Police have been severely criticized for their struggle to solve the case. While the 7-year-old girl was raped in October last year, there's still no clear answers with regards to the perpetrators.
It was October 2023. When the story of an innocent girl named Cwecwe began a story that would shake a nation to its core. 7-year-old Cwecwe's world changed forever that day. While simply waiting for her transport home, she was allegedly sexually assaulted on school grounds. What followed wasn't swift action or protection, but silence. A silence so deafening it would eventually echo across the entire country. They never even reported it, says Thandakile Mchizana, Cwecwe's mother, her voice breaking with emotion. Instead, they quietly offered me a transfer letter for my daughter, as if moving her elsewhere would erase what happened.
I'll fight for my child until I sweat blood. If it means I need to die because I'm finished justice for my child, it's okay. But mina ngizomlwela nomntwana naye uzokhula abone naye ku social media ba yonke mama food for me. Now I'll fight for my child. Noma ngizowenza kuba ngife I don't care because I don't feel safe anymore. Endlini sinemoto zethu. Sesithengisa imoto zethu. Sithengisa nomzi but it's okay. I'll start from scratch but I'll fight for my child until I sweat blood. Mina ngifuna ukwazi ba ubani odlwengule umntana wami emdlwengulelayo. If yafele yami indaba ye rape then yomntana. When it comes to my kids, I'm not a policeman. I'm a mother.
When Thandakile took her story public in early 2025, more than a year after the alleged assault, South Africa responded with outrage. The #sign Justice for Cwecwe began trending, revealing a nation unwilling to look away from yet another failure to protect its children. From Cape Town to Johannesburg, from Durban to Pretoria, the cry echoed across the country. The nation says justice for Cwecwe. But even as public pressure mounted, disturbing patterns emerged. The school principal reportedly refused to cooperate with law enforcement. CCTV footage that might have captured crucial evidence was delayed. Questions hung in the air like storm clouds. Why the resistance? What was being hidden? And who was being protected? When institutions meant to protect our children close ranks instead of opening doors, we must ask ourselves the hardest questions, says child rights advocate SAHRC. Is justice in South Africa only available to those with power and connections? The questions cut deep because they echo patterns seen too many times before. In boardrooms and government offices, difficult conversations were allegedly happening behind closed doors. Sources close to the investigation whispered of pressure being applied, not to find truth, but to bury it. As #Justice for Cwecwe gained momentum, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. Former employees of Bergview College, speaking on condition of anonymity, revealed a toxic environment of silence and intimidation. They described how staff members were allegedly warned against discussing sensitive incidents, and how those who raised concerns about student safety faced sudden terminations or transfers. One former teacher whispered, "We were told that our jobs depended on our discretion. But what about our duty to protect the children?" Legal experts watching the case expressed alarm at what they saw as fundamental failures in the system. When a child is allegedly assaulted and the first instinct is damage control rather than child protection, we have lost our moral compass, explains criminal justice advocate Dr. Sarah Mthembu. Every hour of delay, every obstructed investigation, every missing piece of evidence makes justice harder to achieve. The ripple effects extended far beyond one family. Parents across Matatiele and beyond began questioning their trust in institutions they had believed were above reproach. We send our children to these schools believing they are safe, says local community leader Nomsa Dlamini. When that safety is violated and then covered up, it breaks something fundamental in our social contract. Child protection organizations seized on Cwecwe's case as emblematic of larger systemic failures. Statistics they presented painted a troubling picture. Countless cases of abuse in educational settings never properly investigated, evidence routinely lost or compromised, powerful institutions consistently avoiding accountability while vulnerable children and their families were left without recourse.
Our bodies are battlefields for a war we did not sign up for. Our bodies are torn apart, tortured and tormented. Our bodies carry scars of crimes it seeks to forget. Our bodies are broken down, used and abused. Our bodies are home to trauma that swallows us beneath the ground. Our bodies are fighting to stay alive. Get me out, get it out, get him out. Our bodies try to scream, help me, as they wonder when daylight will break and this ache will fade. Our bodies are tired of being stripped of every limb and left scattered and scarred. Our bodies cry out for justice. Justice for Cwecwe. For she was only 7 years old when her body was stripped of its innocence. When it was battered and bruised and introduced to a pain that it couldn't, shouldn't quite bear. When her body became a crime scene filled with foreign substances left by a body that was meant to care. Our bodies are bleeding for justice, screaming for justice. Our bodies are crying for justice. Enough bodies have gone missing. Enough bodies have been robbed. Enough bodies have been violated. Enough bodies have died. This is a plea, an appeal to the nation's governing bodies to hear our cry. Gender-based violence is a national crisis.
Behind the scenes, political pressure was mounting. Members of Parliament began asking pointed questions about oversight of private educational institutions. Opposition parties called for investigations not just into Bergview College, but into the entire system that allowed such situations to fester in darkness. The ruling party found itself defending institutions they had previously championed as examples of educational excellence. Investigative journalists digging into the story uncovered a web of connections that raised even more troubling questions. Bergview College's board of directors included prominent local business leaders and politicians. The school's legal representation came from one of the province's most powerful law firms. Phone records and financial documents suggested a coordinated effort to manage the crisis through influence rather than transparency. Meanwhile, the official investigation proceeded at what many considered a suspiciously slow pace. Police spokespeople cited ongoing inquiries and procedural requirements, but community members noted how quickly other cases moved through the system when powerful interests weren't involved. Court documents that should have been public remained sealed. Witness statements that should have been taken within days took weeks to complete. Through it all, Thandekile Mchizana refused to be silenced. Despite what she described as attempts to intimidate her family, despite offers that seemed designed to buy her quiet acceptance, despite the overwhelming power arrayed against a single mother seeking justice for her child,
I'll fight for my child until I sweat blood. If it means I need to die because I'm finished justice for my child, it's okay.
She continued speaking out. They think because we don't have money or connections, we will just disappear, she said in one of her few public statements. But my daughter's pain doesn't disappear. The truth doesn't disappear, and I will not disappear. Her courage inspired others. Solidarity rallies spread from Matatile to major cities across South Africa. Candlelight vigils were held outside government buildings. Student organizations at universities condemned the alleged cover-up. Women's rights groups connected Cwecwe's case to broader patterns of gender-based violence being hidden by institutional power. Child psychologists working with trauma survivors emphasized what was being lost in the institutional maneuvering, a 7-year-old girl's need for healing and justice. Every day that passes without accountability, every new revelation of alleged cover-up attempts adds to the trauma, explains child psychologist Dr. Mfo Radebi. The system is not just failing to protect children, it's actively re-traumatizing them. As months passed after the October 2023 incident, and then as public anger grew following the 2025 revelations, the Eastern Cape Department of Education finally took decisive action, deregistering Bergview College and shutting its doors permanently. Meanwhile, a 7-year-old girl and her family are left to rebuild what was shattered in a place meant to nurture and protect. The questions that haunt this case reflect deeper fractures in a system where influence too often trumps integrity, where silence can be purchased, and where the most vulnerable voices struggle to be heard heard. But South Africa has shown that its people refuse to let Cwecwe's story fade into darkness. Her name has become a rallying cry for change, for accountability, for a society where no child suffering is met with institutional indifference. This isn't just Cwecwe's story. It's about every child who deserves protection, every family that deserves answers, and every community that deserves institutions worthy of their trust. The case of Cwecwe remains open, but so too does our responsibility to demand better. Share this video, contact your local representatives, support organizations fighting for child protection reform, because justice delayed is justice denied, and Cwecwe, like every child in South Africa, deserves nothing less than justice served in full. For Cwecwe, for all children, the time for silence is over.